Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Saturday, November 12th, 2022. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin with WWE Smackdown on Fox, live last night from the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. In the opening match, the Usos successfully defended their undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship against the New Day, with Jey Uso pinning Kofi Kingston to secure the win. The victory clears the way for Jimmy and Jey Uso to break the New Day's record for longest tag team title reign in WWE history by Monday, barring an extremely unlikely title change on either of WWE's two house shows in Peoria, Illinois and Madison, Wisconsin over the weekend. No WWE tag team title has changed hands on a house show since 2012. The Usos, along with the rest of the Bloodline, were involved in an in-ring brawl to close out the show after the Brawling Brutes, joined by Sheamus for the first time since October 22nd, attacked them during a promo segment. The Brutes were assisted by Drew McIntyre, continuing his program with the Bloodline that began with Clash at the Castle. The show also featured two matches in the SmackDown World Cup tournament, with Braun Strowman beating Jinder Mahal and Santos Escobar defeating Shinsuke Nakamura. The tournament will continue for the next 2 weeks, with the winner getting a shot at Gunther's Intercontinental Championship. Shotzi earned a title shot on the show, emerging victorious from a six-pack challenge with Liv Morgan, Sonya Deville, Xia Li, Lacey Evans, and Raquel Rodriguez. Shotzi pinned Evans to win the match and the opportunity to wrestle Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title at Survivor Series on November 26. And the Viking Raiders made their return to TV after an 11-week absence, this time joined by Sarah Logan, who had not been seen on WWE since the 2022 Royal Rumble and who hasn't been a regular member of the roster since 2020. The Raiders and Logan stormed the ring during what was scheduled to be a match between B-Fab of Hit Row and Zelina Vega of Legado del Fantasma, laying out both factions and preventing the match from happening.
Headbutt to B-Fab after the Ragnarok. The end of the world, the apocalypse, that power bomb from the Viking Raiders. Eric Ivar, Sarah Logan standing tall. Valhalla is here.
Following the live SmackDown, WWE taped its 20th annual Tribute to the Troops special, which is scheduled to air on Fox sometime in the next month. A taped edition of AEW Rampage aired last evening on TNT, featuring matches recorded Wednesday night at the Agganis Arena in Boston. In the main event, Orange Cassidy pinned Lee Johnson of the Factory to retain the All-Atlantic Championship. In two AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament matches, Brian Cage pinned Dante Martin and Bandido pinned Rush. The finals of the Eliminator Tournament will take place next Saturday at Full Gear, with the winner being named number one contender. Also on the show, Jade Cargill attacked Nyla Rose following Rose's quick win over Kayla Sparks and attempted to take back the TBS Championship belt Rose stole from her on October 8th at Battle of the Belts 4, but Rose and her entourage escaped with the belt. At the top of the show, Jungle Boy challenged Luchasaurus to a steel cage match at Full Gear, which Christian Cage accepted on behalf of Luchasaurus before Luchasaurus chokeslammed Jungle Boy on a steel chair.
Christian setting up that chair and Jungle Boy, just chokes that careening off the chair.
I don't want to say I was right, but he never should have done this, and he's paying for it now.
Spine versus steel. Steel wins.
What shape is Jungle Boy Jack Perry going to be in on November 19th when he steps into the steel cage with Luchasaurus at Full Gear?
In more AEW news, Bandido's recently signed contract with AEW is full-time and with a 3-year term, according to a new report in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The contract also calls for what's described as a maximum number of dates, which will be more dates per year than most currently contracted AEW talent work. The report also indicated that Bandido turned down WWE's counteroffer because it required him to relocate full-time to Florida to work at the WWE Performance Center, which would keep him away from his family in Mexico. Bandido was signed to his AEW contract last September after a very well-received match against Ring of Honor World Champion Chris Jericho on Dynamite. More news on Nick Aldis and the National Wrestling Alliance. The two-time former NWA World Champion appeared on the Not Sam podcast yesterday to address his departure from the company and his creative differences with owner Billy Corrigan.
The sad truth is, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking about this.
Sure.
basically things got harder when he became more hands-on. Because at first he was quite hands-off, quite remote, and was, just sort of lending ideas and sort of notes here and there.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And suddenly it turned into something else. And I try to be as nice as I can about this.
Mm-hmm.
He's not very good at it, and I can't. I wish it wasn't the case, but again, it's not really for me to say. It's for the audience to say. And my decision to leave has come from the fact that the audience have told us. The audience have left in droves, and it's just not a good decision to be there anymore. It's not a viable option.
Aldis also cited what he described as the NWA's movement away from what he considered its original creative goal when Corrigan purchased the brand in 2017 to provide fans with a product that was an alternative to much of modern wrestling. Although he pinpointed the company's creative decline as starting when he lost the NWA title, he made it clear he was not pressuring Corrigan to put the title back on him, and that it was a conversation that Corrigan had with Aldis' wife, Mickie James, in which he insisted that's what Aldis was doing, which convinced him it was time to leave the company. Aldis, one of the NWA's major stars under the Corrigan regime, put in his notice last weekend and was subsequently suspended by the NWA for critical comments he made earlier this week. And finally, some sad news to report, as 1960s and 70s tag team wrestler Karl Von Steiger has passed away. Von Steiger, real name Lorne Corlett, died on Wednesday of congestive heart failure. The news was first shared by Pacific Northwest wrestling historians Mike Rogers and Frank Culberson on the Excitement is in the Air Twitter account. Corlett took on the mantle of Karl Von Steiger along with his fictional brother Kurt Von Steiger, real name Arnold Pastrick, in 1968. The duo experienced great success in the Western United States and Canada, winning titles in Stampede Wrestling, the San Francisco territory, and especially the Pacific Northwest, whereas Corlett was also Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Champion as a single. The Von Steigers enjoyed successful tours of Hawaii and Australia as well, before finally going their separate ways in 1978. Unlike most who took on German heel personas, the Von Steigers did not take inspiration from Nazi iconography, but rather the era of World War I Imperial Germany. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.